There is only one thing that is more frightening than death itself. High school group projects. I can tell the room just got a lot more uncomfortable. See, in a classroom setting, whenever students are assigned a project in which they are required to collaborate with other students, hell is just waiting to be uncaged. Not only do you need to somehow figure out a solution to global warming, but you need to do it with 3 other students whom you've somehow never seen your entire life, despite being in the same class for the past 6 months. And so now you're in this really interesting dilemma where you try and guess their names, give up, ask your friend who also turns out to be wrong, and now you feel very uncomfortable as there is a girl glaring at you for calling her Stacy because her name isn't Stacy. Good job. But what if I told you, and this is going to shock you, that you actually work better with someone you aren't familiar with? Wait, what? Based on everything I've just demonstrated to you, working with strangers is by far the most unpleasant experience anyone could put themselves through. How could you actually collaborate better with these people? Well, I do hope to illustrate that to you today. 2 years ago, I attended a summer study at a college to learn about business and entrepreneurship. The notion of creating problems to address solutions in the world really inspired me. Upon arrival, we were required to read a book called Entrepreneurial DNA by Joe Abraham. Now, this is an amazing work, and I recommend everyone to check it out, whether entrepreneur or not, because I believe that there's an entrepreneur in all of us. Now, Abraham's philosophy was that entrepreneurs can be characterized into 4 categories, each with a different skill set and with different qualities. What are they? Well, they're builders, opportunists, specialists, and innovators, which create the acronym BOSSY. That right there is the BOSSY quadrant. BOSSY, get it? Exactly. Now, opportunists are the idealists within us. They dream large and seek opportunity. Specialists are the more analytical in the group. You'll see these as the experts. Now, innovators love looking at both the realities and possibilities. They can take an idea and turn it into a real thing. And then there's the builders, the organs of a group, each with a passion to inspire others and bring the group to success. Now, the cool thing about the book is that it allows the user to take a survey to identify their own DNA. So after taking the BOSSY survey, I discovered that I was a builder and an innovator, meaning that I had a passion for novelty and a passion for leadership. I looked down at my arm and I said, wait, do I really have this in my blood? Do I need to tell my doctor about this? Briefly afterwards, I was grouped into a group of 6, which was to represent a small venture. See, the summer study had a grand challenge embedded into it. So within our entrepreneurial teams, utilizing the business knowledge that we gained, we were to ideate a business idea, create a business plan, engineer a prototype, and then finally present it at the very end to a panel of judges competing with the other 100 students at the camp. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, there was one issue. I was the only one in my team who was a builder innovator. Actually, nobody had the same traits. So I thought to myself, well, this is just great, isn't it? Not a single person had the same qualities in my group. Well, I might as well have just been featured on Gordon Ramsay's cooking show for whipping up the best recipe for disaster in the universe. So just like I imagined, our differences led to heated disputes. Many heated disputes. In fact, I don't believe there was a single thing that we collectively agreed on. I met a friend named Elon. No, not Elon Musk, or my life would be a success by now, but the thing about Elon was, despite having a cool name, he was a hardcore opportunist. And he always got into a fight with Emilia, a passionate specialist. And so while Elon wanted to focus on the marketing side of our company, Emilia stubbornly insisted that we focus on the product development aspect. And when this happened, not only did I want to make contact with the wall using my head, but a long-winded argument, which seemed to last for centuries, would spark. And so, after these arguments, we were able to find some sort of compromise by laying out the positives, negatives, and finding something in between. But later on, what happened was things started to get violent. Arguments consisted of shouting, contorted faces, and things started to get thrown. Actually, if you look closely, I have a scar on my nose from getting hit by a stapler. Don't ask, I couldn't answer. So the fighting continued for the next 20 days. As you could imagine, it was quite the gruesome experience. But as I look back, I realized that our team did actually have something in common. And that was the drive to finish what we started and to finish it well, meaning we didn't give up. And so despite all our quarrels, after every single fight, our team grew a little closer. If you've ever seen a muscle tissue in action before or during a workout, it first expands, stretches, and then tears. Extremely painful. But after some time, what happens is it grows back, and this time, harder and stronger. So just like a muscle, our team challenged ourselves with perspectives, tore each other down to the bare bone, but then exhibited growth upon rebuilding ourselves. Now, after weeks and weeks of hard work, we finally presented our entrepreneurial mosaic and ended up winning Best Product, first place at the final business showcase. Think about that. Isn't that amazing? We, a group of pubescent teenagers who couldn't stop yapping at each other for 5 minutes, managed to create a well-developed business idea that was deemed feasible by actual renowned entrepreneurs willing to invest. Obviously this shocked me, and to this day I'm still scratching my head as to how we managed to pull that off. But as I look back at our team's composition and re-examined it, I noticed that our dissimilarities underscored one of the most essential lessons that any aspiring entrepreneur like myself could ever learn. We were strong because of exactly that, our differences. We didn't notice it at the time, but the weaknesses of one member was supplemented by the strengths of others. And only by displaying this through altercations were we able to achieve success. This was when I discovered my love for group projects and why I think we actually work better with people we don't completely understand. It's not just because we have different skill sets, because otherwise a company would just be an assembly line. Oh, well, I finished my part for the day, so I'm out, bye. No. Successful teams are not assembly lines. After the summer study, I competed at many more startup competitions that have taken me all across the nation. And I saw way too many teams where members treated themselves like components of a factory. They focused too much on their own individual parts as opposed to pushing towards a true common goal. So it's not just the differences in skill sets. A diverse team is more effective because it allows us to disagree, to fight, to compromise. Imagine being in a company surrounded by all your friends who agree with each and every single thing you say. Yes, you may feel really good. Actually, you may feel like the smartest person in the world. But how will you know when what you're doing doesn't work anymore? By the time you realize that innovation is what you need, the train for success has already taken off. Oh, sorry about that. And of over 60 companies that I've researched in the past, this issue is quite prevalent. A famous quote from the movie The Social Network, which documents Mark Zuckerberg and his experience with Facebook, is, if there's something that you should know, $1 million isn't cool. You know what it is? Me? No, I'm just kidding. $1 billion. What he means by that is many don't realize that there's always room for change and innovation. So many companies have thought that $1 million was cool, and they didn't take a chance. In fact, many cases are because companies don't expand to more areas of the bossy quadrant. You can't run a company with 50 specialists and 1 opportunist. Business just doesn't work like that. Of over 60 companies that I've researched in the past, it's obvious that this issue is quite prevalent. Yahoo, once valued at $125 billion, was bought by Verizon for 4.8. That's worse than stubbing your toe in the morning, trust me. BlackBerry, the iPhone of yesterday, now shares about 0.0% of the mobile device market. That's quite literally nothing. And these are all results of companies just not taking the correct risk. Now obviously all this begs the question, why should I care? Well, you see, there's this sort of race that new people are added into every single day. In the past, some people have joined voluntarily, but now it's more of parents that are forcing their kids into it. And actually, you may have heard of it before. It's called life. And the thing about life, I know it's crazy, is that it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer. Heck, you could be a professional video game player. You belong in a society in this marathon. And just like a business, members of your community have unique potentials that they may not even know about. The differences between you and that annoying neighbor who can't shut up his dog at night are what, believe it or not, pushes the world in a positive direction. Your uniqueness is what allows society to advance in this marathon. And so, if there's one thing that I hope you take away from everything, it's this. Embrace the differences of others. Take a risk. Find a disagreement. And when you do, learn. Don't just learn about the things you dislike. Learn about the things that other people dislike. Learn about other cultures, other traditions, other practices. And when you find yourself in an argument, don't argue to win. Argue to understand. And if there's one sentence that I hope you take away from everything that I've said today, it's this. Even the largest companies in the world once started as a small group project. Thank you.